Hello everybody, John here, and today we're starting the refurb of my top wishbones. Today they're coming off. I know it sounds a bit sad, but I'm quite excited to be doing this job. I'm looking forward to refurbing my top wishbones. So, how do we begin to refurb or at least remove the wishbones from a Jaguar XK8 or XKR X100 1996 to 2006? Sound quite professional there, didn't I? Start by cutting these two cable ties. Mine are blue, which makes them easy to see. Generally they'll be black, or more likely missing. This frees up the ABS cable. So this is what goes to your wheel sensors and tells your ABS motor to do clever things. Next, disconnect the cable from the ABS sensor, which is on the back of the hub. Just lift a little leg or clip off there. There we go. Not sure how well that showed up on camera. It's a bit hard to light in this well and put a camera in this well and put my head in this well. So apologies for that. So I'm just going to tuck that out of the way. Now, my car is 1996, which is not a common car. And this is not common either. On the underside of my wishbone, I have another wire. And this is an earth wire. And it's connected with the idea of electrical interference and the ABS sensor again. It was not fitted to many cars at all. In fact, I don't think anything later than 1998 will have it. And if you removed it, I don't think you'd see any effect. But that's just bolted to my hub and bolted to the bodywork, and now is tucked out of the way. Next, we want to loosen the big pivot bolt that runs through the top wishbone. Now, if you've not removed this before, soak the nut end at this end here with penetrant and try to squirt some penetrant in the gaps between the innermost washers and the subframe. And in here, where you can see the shaft of the nut, the shaft of the bolt running through the subframe, squirt some penetrant in there. Now, I've removed these not very long ago, so I know I'm not going to have problems removing them. Indeed, I've probably used copper slip on the shaft. So just be aware that these can be very hard to remove, so I'm going to make this look quite easy. You're going to need a 24mm socket and a 24mm spanner, or wrench if you're in the States. Now, I'm using a spanner because it's easier to see, and I know this is going to come off reasonably well, but I would recommend using a 6-sided socket if you can, or a 6-sided ring or box wrench. I know this is going to come off easily and it's nice and easy to show on film. Because the thread comes through here quite a way and there is this pip, you can put a socket on it, but if you do put a socket on it, you want to make sure it's deep enough that you get all the way on. You do not want to round off anything on these pins. That pip is there to enable you to hammer the end of this to push it back and do so without damaging the end of the thread. I've left my wheel arch liner on. Again, I know I'm not going to have too much trouble removing this. If you've got trouble, then you'll take a break, remove your wheel arch liner, and that'll give you just a little bit more clearance to maybe use a hammer to hit the end of that a little later on. But here we go, holding on to the other end with my ratchet. Actually turning from the other end, there we go. And undone. As I say, that is rather easier than I would anticipate most people's, because if they've never been removed before, it can be quite the game. Right, and I'm going to leave it there. Why leave it there, I hear you all cry. Why leave it there? Because typically, if you're going to have big trouble, that is the piece you're going to have big trouble with. This bolt, you can see where it goes for the subframe, being frozen or corroded into the subframe, meaning you can't remove it. So what you want to be able to do is check that you can loosen the nut and turn this, and that you've got a little bit of movement this way. If not, then it's kind of pointless doing the rest of the job until you know you can free this off. So now we want to look at freeing off the ball joint on this end. And there are lots of ways of releasing ball joints. Many people go for a hammer blow, a really nicely planted hammer blow here, whilst applying some force with a screwdriver, or even just pulling up on these will often release them once the nut is undone. Some people use a thing that looks a little bit like a tuning fork and a chisel that have mated, and you push it in this gap and you hammer away, and that is a wedge, and it will force these two items apart and then they will pop. I've got a really nice ball joint splitter, so I'm going to use that because I've got it. Not the end of the earth expensive, but certainly a tool not everybody's got. Let me get that. Oh, here it is. Move them out of the way. I don't know if I've got a brand name on this. Don't think so. I've got a feeling this is a Sykes Pickavant, but most Sykes Pickavant stuff has got a label on it. And it has been repaired a few times over the years because I've used and abused it to death because it's so handy. And all you do is you put these two forks here either side of your ball joint in the gap between the hub and the wishbone. And this, you touch the end of the bolt, the threaded item, that you've taken the nut off on the ball joint. And you can see it pivots. So you bring it into contact, tighten this bolt, which causes the jaws to close, and it slowly pushes the ball joint through until it goes bang and releases. And it's a nice satisfying tool. And if you've wound on loads of pressure and it's still not letting go, you do have the option of, as you can see here, giving it a little bang with a hammer here to help vibrate the thing loose. But yeah, I've had a lot of good success with this, and I just don't see any point in making it harder for myself. If I can find the same thing or very similar on Amazon, I'll put a link in the description below the video to the same type of item, but it probably won't be the same brand because, as I say, I'm not 100% sure that this is a Sykes Pickavant. The nut on the bottom of the ball joint is an 18mm. Might have to use a spanner for ease of access. Now, that's fine. Rubber mallet to save my hands. Not too difficult. Occasionally when you're doing this, it's rare, you'll undo the nut and you'll actually turn the ball joint. That means it's not gripped in the taper. You've generally got the opposite issue. So what I'm going to do is just wind my nut off until it's flush with the head to the end of the bolt, and that will give the ball joint splitter something bigger to press on, so it's just easier to line up, and also means that when it does go bang, this won't fly off and that won't fall over. So here's the splitter. Put the fork in this gap here between the wishbone and the hub, and that goes underneath the bolt head. A little bit further. There we go. That's great. That's giving me a good angle. And it's got a 24mm nut on there. So we just pop that on and tighten her up. And generally it doesn't need an awful lot of effort using this tool, but sometimes I'm wrong. And there you go. You see, not a lot of effort from me, but quite an explosive release. And I find that hitting it, sometimes you get lucky and it's just a couple of blows there. But using the tuning forks, you know, things bounce off and you're hitting things you shouldn't hit. So a really nice tool. And my next step is just to make sure my hub doesn't flop over and stretch my brake flexi hoses. You can use a bungee cord or some rope. I've got this handy chain with a hook on, which I just hook over a coil on my spring. And I got an S hook, and I put that around one of my wheel studs. Let's just pull that to be at the top, and then find the appropriate eye. There we go. And that will keep that from flopping around. I know you can't see it, but all I'm doing now is fully undoing the nut from my ball joint. There we go. And we're free. And this is the hose I'm worried about stretching. So just letting things settle, and yep, that's fine. That's not going to stretch. Whoop. That's good. Next, we're going to slide the pin out. So make yourself up something like this. Whoop. Or just some pots if you're less sad than me. Front, rear, 4 hooks. That represents the pin and the 2 bushes. And there are washers that are going to be either side of the rear bush and either side of the front bush. And you want to make sure you know where they came from. So have that to hang your washers on. All right. Nut comes off nice and easy, because I did copper slip it last time it came off. And I've got a big top hat washer. My bolt is coming out really easily. You may need to hammer on that end and rotate the other end. So be ready for that. Yeah, you can see the washers. 1, 2. Is there a third? I'm not sure. 2 on that side, but I'm looking to get them out of this side first. Okay. Nearly out. Okay, watch where your washers are coming from. Okay, so nothing else on that side, but this side, there we go, got thick, thin, and then the big shaped one. I'm putting them face down, because in my diagram that's facing the bush. I'm going to put that as facing the bush, so I'm keeping my conventions. Down onto the bush, down onto the bush, and here, down onto the bush, and then we'll take this all the way out. That's part of the bush, that washer. Down onto the bush. You can see this is actually separated. That's the outer washer, that's the bearing inside the bush. Okay. Having moved over onto the bench, we can see just how far gone this is, because that should look like that. So that washer is that washer that's sort of encapsulated in that bush. The yellow thing below it is a PTFE dry bearing that sits below this, allowing it to smoothly rotate without the aid of grease. Whoop! Look at the state of that, eh? It's just falling apart. So there's the bush out of this side, literally falling out. Let's see if we can get this bit off. It is only rubber to metal contact, which is what makes it very easy to do the bushes, relatively speaking anyway, on the top wishbone. There we go. That's that one out. This one might need a bit of a knock. Looks like that bush is maybe peened over a little bit. It's just completely destroyed. And my suspension was working well, and it's had a recent MOT on which top bushes were not an issue. So it is worth looking at these and seeing if you can sort them out before they cause detectable issues. Oh, look at that. I know what that is, some sort of fibrous material. So it's safe to say our old bushes are shot beyond belief. Okay, so look, we're nearly disassembled. There's only one item left. And interestingly, it's very loose in its movement. It isn't necessarily bad, but it's a lot looser than I anticipate. Makes me wonder if it is worn out. There's no way I'm going to go this far with this task anyway and not replace this ball joint. And I am the strange individual who will enjoy the fact that I know these are difficult to do. So the only way to get this out is to press it out. It needs to be pressed with this boot removed there to push through the eye. But what do you press against? Because this flange is part of the bush. So I've got plenty of land here and here, but almost nothing here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this up just to see what I'm working with, but I may well angle grind this piece of the flange off to give me good land to sit on. Because our bush, our ball joint, sorry, if I grab one of those for you, there's a new ball joint. And you can see this flange is part of the ball joint, and it's going to be forced through from this side. So I've got nothing to rest on over here, only on this side. Which is why so many people just swap these for new, complete wishbones with bushes and ball joints in. But it's doable. We're going to do it. Also, you know, brand new. Can't move it by hand. Just going to flick off the wire clip that keeps the boot in place. There we go. So we can have a good look. Wow, look at that. Like a spring. It's still fully intact, this rubber boot. There's our actual ball joint. Yeah, there is some play in it. Not a lot, but a tiny amount. So let the fun begin. Right, I'm going to let this video sit here because it's Sunday. I have to go to work. So if I get too involved in this, I'll be in here all night and I've got to get myself to South Wales. So I'm going to park that there. By the time I edit this up, you'll be seeing it in the week. And then when I come back next weekend, I will get on with the challenge of pushing this out. Now, you will be able to do it with a good vice if you modify that flange. But I do have a little press, so I'll be making some use of that. But yeah, same will apply in terms of how to do it. So again, quite interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me for part 1 of my top wishbone refurb, and I'll get part 2 out to you as soon as I can. See ya. If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.